This is by a rishi called Lagadha. We have it in the second shloka. Kalajnanam pravakshyami Lagadhasya Mahatmanaha. Lagadha is the name of the rishi who wrote the Vedanga Jyotisha Sutra. Vedanga Jyotisha, there are different versions, one for Rigveda and one for Yajurveda. Okay, so it's in the form of shlokas generally. It's about 35 shlokas here and 44 shlokas there. Pancha Samvatsaramayam Yugadhyaksham Prajapatim Dina Ritu Ayana Masa Angam Dinartvayana Masangam Pranamya Shirasa Shitihi Pranamya Shirasa Kalam Abhivadya Saraswatim Kalajnanam Pravakshyami Lagadhasya Mahatmanaha. Now, actually, this Kala Jnana is an important aspect in all the Vedic rituals. The time. The time could be Dina, Ritu, Ayana, Masa, etc. and up to Samvatsara. The maximum unit that is used is one full year. Okay, so from Nimesha up to Samvatsara, this is what the Vedas have classified as the units that are used for various kinds of Vedic activity. So we have Jyotisha Mayanam Kritsnam Pravakshyam Yanupurvashaha. Exact word is Jyotisha Mayanam or Jyotisham. Jyotish includes 5 kinds of sources of light: sun, moon, fire, Agni, and of course we have the stars, nakshatras, and after that we have the Vidyut or the lightning. These 5, even in the Upanishad it is said, Na tatra suryo bhati, na chandra tarakam, nema vidyuto bhanti, kutoyam agnihi, tameo bhantam anubhati sarvam. So what we basically have is, one is able to get light, get knowledge about all various things because of the light being the facilitator for somebody to see, hear, etc. So the Kala Jnana is given in this Vedanga. It is based on Jyotish Sanchara. So this is called Jyotisha. Now, of course, it says Jyotisha Mayanam Kritsnam Pravakshyami Prapadyete Shavishtado Surya Chandramasa Udake Sarpardhe Dakshinarkastu Magha Shravanayo Sada, like this. For each of the nakshatras, then of course there are different kinds of properties on their movement of the various planetary effects that we have. It is the Jyotis, they are all in movement. Sun is moving, moon is moving. Similarly, we have the stars, they have their relative positions. And of course, lightning is very temporary and transitory, but then at different seasons, at different times, this comes up and goes. Fire is something that there is a standard fire, plus there is something that we all can create. So what we create for cooking, etc., is not included in this. What we basically include is the Vedic Agni. If someone is an Agnihotri, he will have the fire maintained, also Dharya Agni. That will be treated as the Jyotish. Okay, Jyotisha Mayanam is their movements, their variations. That is what causes what time is suitable for what result, what activity, etc. Then they are generally related to the 27 nakshatras. Prapadyate Shravishtadau. Shravishta is taken, of course, this keeps varying with a cycle period of say about 200 years. In each 200 years, one position of this nakshatra keeps moving around. So, 2700 years is one cycle, 100 years per nakshatra. If one full nakshatra has to be completed, it takes 2700 years. Which means if we begin, in fact, if you see in the Loka, we start counting from Ashwini, Bharani, Kritika, Rohini, etc. In the Vedas, we find Kritika used as the first nakshatra. Kritika Prathamam, Vishakhe Uttamam, then Anuradha Prathamam, Apabharani Uttamam. The nakshatras are classified into 2 major categories. One are called Deva Nakshatras, the other are called Yama Nakshatra. The Deva Nakshatra starts with Kritika and end with Anuradha. Vishakha, Vishakhe Uttamam, Anura, Kritika Prasamam, Vishakhe Uttamam. Basically, suppose there was a time when Kritika was the first of the nakshatras, and after 2700 years, the first nakshatra shifts from Kritika to Apabharani. Then presently we have Ashwini as the first of the nakshatra, which means there is a clear difference of about 5400 years This is how roughly the Jyotisha Mayanam is. It's a cycle and it keeps again following the same original cycle. So in definite periodicities, there will be certain kinds of the major activities in the at the universal level which might repeat or which might have similar characteristics. Okay, so this is how the Kala Jnana is important to be used. And of course, the yugas are multiples of these samvatsaras only. So Pancha Samvatsaramayam, this is another concept that we have in the Veda. Each year of 365 days that we have itself is made of 5 parts. That is what is called Pancha Samvatsaramayam. Now Pancha Samvatsaras are Agnirvava Samvatsaraha, Ayuranavatsaraha, Chandrama Idavatsaraha, Idvatsara, Idavatsara, Samvatsara, Anuvatsara, Idvatsara, Idavatsara, and simply Vatsara. These 5. These are again subunits of every year for different kinds of activities, Nitya Karmas. Then some of the Naimittikas like Darsha Purnamasa, etc. Some other kind of Naimittikas like Chaturmasya. Then there are also, of course, Ishtis, Vikritis, Somyagas, and Kamyagas, etc. For different kinds of activities, each kind of the subset of the year is prescribed in the Shrutis itself. Do this in Idavatsara, do this in Idvatsara, do this in Anuvatsara, do this in Parivatsara, etc. So, the Kala, based on its characteristics, is termed differently and they are linked to Nakshatras definitely. So, that Nakshatras are the most significant and most effective ones among the available ones. Chandra and Surya, of course, they have a global level of effect on all the other stars as well. So, Prapadyate, Shavishtado, Surya, Chandramaso, Udak. Surya and Chandra, they have in their sidereal movement moving from north to south and of course in between. So, we have the Dakshinayana Uttarayana kind of concept that is mentioned in the Shruti itself. And we do have, even in the Taittiriya Upanishad, yo dakshine pramiyate, yo udagayane pramiyate, udagayana dakshinayana, they are used. The different seasons and their effects and the kinds of activities suitable for each one of them, even including the havis that is used, they are all depending on the time of the year, the season of the year, month, the day, etc. And of course the nakshatra. So the Shavishta, once you take from there, of course, Surya and Chandra, they start moving, they start reaching north. Then Sarpardhe Dakshinarkaha. Sarpa is the Ashresha nakshatra. The devatas are used sometimes to denote the nakshatra. Ashresha nakshatragam Sarpa devata. Kritika nakshatra Agnir devata. The Shruti has listed for all the 27 nakshatras. These are the devatas. And devatas are actually the shaktis, are the kinds of effects that one would need. And a devata is posited with those kinds of features, abilities, and anugraha to give the results. So then, of course, one simple thing, Magha Shravanayo Sada, Sarpardhe Dakshinarkaha. In Magha and Shravana, we have Surya is moving towards south. South, either he begins moving or he comes back to. And so this is how you have a central point from where they start moving apart, then of course come back to this. This cycle is 6 months each for the Udayana and Dakshinayana. So this is how the nakshatras, of course, are linked to them, and all the Vedic rituals require a sankalpa, and the sankalpa expects the Yajamana to know the Desha, Kala, etc., and their Kirtana is necessary. You should start mentioning in the Sankalpa. Now, I am in this Kalivike, Prasaya, Mahapade, Jambu, Dibya, Bhatoshe, Bhartakanda, etc. Then, year, of course, the Samvatsara name, Vilambinama Samvatsara, Dakshinayane, etc. So, the Ritu, then, of course, the month, the Paksha, and after that, we have the Tithi, Nakshatra, of course, Yoga, Karana, Vara, various things are added. So, these, the different effects are necessary. Vedahi yajnatsam abhipravruttaha nirdishta kala prabhavascha yajnaha. This is what he has said in the end. Lagadha has mentioned. All yajnas have nirdishta kala, specified duration when the different rituals have to be performed, different samskaras or the kami karmas have to be done. So for that, he now lists out, and of course this is put into some table form for each of these nakshatras. what is the movement, what is the variation, etc. Similarly, it can be done for the different other jyotis like Surya itself, or Chandra also, similarly Agni. And in the Agni also there are, in the Taittiriya Brahmana, there are quite detailed. Each of the yajnas, they are specified based on when they should be conducted, how, etc. And of course, the measurements, etc., based on Shilpa Sutra, it has a link to that. You try to set up something when the sun is setting, as sun is rising, then of course measure certain distance, mark out some point. At that point, when sun reaches, between this period is to be the time for this activity. Like that, it is tried to mention. So the Kala, Nirdishta Kala Prabhavascha Yajnaha, Jyotisha is Kala Vidhana Shastra. That is what is the purpose of the Vedanga Jyotisha. For what Kriya, what is the specified Kala, Nirdishta Kala. This is what is mentioned here. And of course, some of these, Dvigunam Saptamam Chaho, Ayanadyam Trayodasha, Chaturtham Dashamam Jaiva, Dir Yugbadhyam, Bahule Piritav. In different ritus, they keep varying, and then they just give the list of trains. Okay, this is of course to be put into the form of a table. And of course, there are not much of practitioners today who actually follow Vedanga Jyotisha in the yajna. They usually follow what are currently known as the Panchanga kind of thing. They have been already calculated beforehand for each year. But as per the Jyotisha Vyakhya, it's specifically mentioned that every day a person should be doing some observation. Then, of course, setting out the value, even though there may be a calendar available. So this basically is today used by those who write Panchangas, but of course they may require corrections regularly, and for that this jnana will be helpful. Vamshasyu ashtaka karya pakshaha dvadasaja udgataha ekasya gunasyavanaha shukle ardhancha aindavayadi. So if these things join together, then they produce some effect. This has got this much a fraction of these values, etc. I'm not getting into the full details, but the whole idea is what are all the factors or the parameters that are mentioned in this, and which is important. And this is said to be equivalent to the eyes of the Veda Purusha, Jyotishamayanam Chakshu. So one should be able to see at this time, this way, if I perform this, I am sure to get the result expected. So the Bhardha, then Bhas are the nakshatras, and then they have a total cycle within which first half, second half, one third, one fourth, one fifth. There are different kinds of divisors. What should be done when is, of course, specified out of this. Later, of course, even in the astrological part, people do have this part to be used anyway. The nakshatras are important in their bhavas, their durations, their gatis, and within that chara, there are sub-charas, etc. Those are important. But Vedic part is not for predicting anything. This is not for knowing what would happen to somebody, or it's not for the future kind of thing. It is basically to conduct the yajnas as mentioned in the Vedas, which is specified when, at what time. In fact, we have in the Taittiriya Brahmana, there is a portion called Kataka. There are three mantras, three prashnas, three adhyayas. There it even lists out every muhurta in a day has a name, and usually the Shruti, when it mentions it, uses some of those words which are kala denoters. And how they are arrived at, of course, this sutras try to tell us. You divide something into, make it into 3 parts, 6 parts, 9, 12, 20, 30, various kind of things. Una sthane disaptiti uddupe duna samvitaha karyaha bhamshashtaka sthane kalaha ekana vimshatihi, etc. These are, of course, there is one good book, of course, on this Vedanga Jyotisha, published from the Oriental Institute, Mysore, in the last century, one Sri Shama Shastri. The Shama Shastri has, of course, given the entire mathematical explanation with the diagrams, with the kind of understanding them clearly. And of course, there is also a table given by him. The book is named Vedanga Jyotisha itself. So, the Vedanga Jyotisha has to understand the calculative portions from the sutras is explained there in his book, and of course he has also tried to see the Western astronomy also, and he says, of course, this astronomy has nothing to be complaining about, kind of. This is complete in itself, self-sufficient, and of course no way inferior to anything else. Maybe the reckoning is different, the way we take, which is taken in the beginning, at the beginning, and how many parameters, how all we calculate is defined, but it fully agrees with And of course, the famous thing every one of us knows is the eclipses, etc., are very exactly calculated in all our almanacs, in all our panchanga. It's simply because someone has a good observatory system, mechanism, which can predict in the coming year which months will have Surya Grahana, Chandra Grahana, and when, what, where is it visible, when does it start, when does it end, etc. So that is the basic idea, to see that the Punya Kala is decided, the right Kala is decided. Okay, so for the like Tadeva Lagnam Sudinam Tadeva, the kind of statements that we generally make when you do any good activity, it is to see that you might be able to exactly come up with, or there could be, let us say, some subtle variations, minor pluses and minuses. So for that, of course, we again invoke the Vedic gods. Here also there is a concept called Nakshatramaya Prajapati. Eshavaina Kshatriya Prajapati. Nakshatriya Prajapati. So that each nakshatra has got a devata, and the devata Shakti is invoked to see if something goes wrong also, or you have generally mistaken something, things can be set right, or naturally things happen in the right time. So this Nadikas, Muhurta, yeah.
Sir, one question.
Yeah.
When and how did this Jyotishya in general conversation get to associate itself with that prediction? Because until I came to this class, or until I joined, I was thinking that Jyotisha is meant, the primary purpose is meant for that prediction.
No. Yeah, so the whole point is here, let me explain this to you. The Vedas have said, do certain activities at exactly certain times for each of the Yajamana, then he gets the results assured, but it is quite an intricate calculation. Now, this also assumes, though it is not mentioned specifically, this assumes the Yajamana has to contribute his own karma gati, along with this. This is implicit. It is implicit in the Vedic astronomy. There is no doubt about this. But that is not the purpose. That is, suppose a person's adrishta allows a person to get the result, and he also does what is prescribed in the Vedas, then he is successful. If we were to say this, what would happen is Vedas become subjective, subject to the condition that the Yajamana has got a favorable karma to achieve this result, which is not true in the case of Veda. Now, mantras are capable of rectifying. In fact, I just mentioned a little ago that if a person wants to get what he has to get, and without any change or mistakes in this, if he is able to calculate and do, then in fact, it is assuming, even if he has an adverse karma, which will not allow him, this mantra Shakti will prevail over that and get him the result as far as the Vedas have prescribed this. Now, this is the most important part, that is the bottom line of the entire Vedanga Jyotisha. Now, this Vedanga Jyotisha, by actual observation, by performance and getting the result, now one is able to say, now I think I can take on even my destiny. This becomes a kind of thinking on the practitioner, and of course, those who calculate, they naturally have an interest. Now, will I be able to take up something? Should I do something? Or there are also abhicharas. Can I stop somebody being successful? There are both ways. So this happens. Of course, the human tendency is common across the time cycle. It did not start today or yesterday. Of course, it is there from time immemorial. Because Shrutis have Devasuras, Sanyatas, Devatas and Asuras are always fighting. This is the two minds of the same person also. It is not that there are two camps and they are always enemies. That is not the way it is. A mind itself divided against itself. Okay, you want to be noble, you want to take shortcuts. So this is something, in fact, because we asked this question, Taitri Samhita, third kanda, third Prashna has one mention. There are yajnas called Dirgha Satras. Satra is the name of a yajna where it is beyond 12 days. Up to 12 days, if a yajna has got, it's called Ahina. It is counted by a number of days. After 13 days and further up to 1 year, this is Satra. Now, Satras are performed by sitting. That is the reason Satra actually means people sit and do. Eta asate, eta ratri asate. That is what the Shruti says. And it is going to be straining, too straining to go on for months and say till a year. If you have to perform things standing, running around, etc. So this is not included. Satras involve sitting around sitting in a place, performing all the rituals from the seated position. Now, among the Satra, up to 1 year, the Taittiriya Samhita has got Go Satra is the name. The goats or the cows themselves, they got whatever they wanted to be. They wanted to be sustainers of the earth, and then they got after doing this Go Satra. Today, of course, Go is the Pratishtha, the fulcrum around which people have their lives. So there it is 1 year. So 360 nights it mentioned. After that also, there could be some more phalas which require multiple years as the duration. Then what happens? The rishis felt in the Taittiriya Aranyaka in the end, in the Taittiriya Kataka there is in the end, the Prajapatis who actually created the world, they conducted a yajna which lasted 1,000 years. That is what it first says. Vishwasajah prathama satrama sahasra samam prasute nayanta. Sahasra samam, sama is the name of year. So sahasra samam means 1,000 years. Then of course the Veda Bhashya, Veda itself then explains, no one has got an ayus which is 1,000 years. So if you say 1,000 years satra, how can somebody do this? Then the Shruti say, the 1,000 years that is mentioned there is to be taken as 1,000 days. Now, 1 day of that satra is equivalent to getting the result for 1 full year. And so, here the word sama refers to a day. This is what it says. Then, even if it is 1,000 days, it is nearly 3 years. Okay, if someone has to do such a dirgha satra, such satras are called as dirgha satra. Now, this dirgha satra, if rishis wanted to perform, they wanted to be sure whether they will live through the entire duration and they will be successful after taking so much pains. For this, the Shruti says, now this I am narrating only to say there was no astrological portion in the Vedic part, because here is where it is required. If someone wants to check whether he is going to live or is going to be successful after continuing this 3 years satra, he should have easily referred to, let us say, the chart or kundali or whatever. The Shruti did not mention that as the method. It said, Ete navai vijnanena rishaya pura vijnanena dirgha satram upayanti. Whenever the rishis set out in doing dirgha satra, they wanted to be doubly sure that they will be successful. So they had a vijnana through which they used to get an indication, yes, you are going to be successful in what you are embarking upon. So for that, this is a kind of Shakuna Jnana. Shakunas are kind of portents or omen. Okay? So what it says, there is a day specifically called Ashtaka. We perform the Tarpana in one Ashtaka every year. And that is called Ekashtaka. Magha Paurnami, after Magha Paurnami, the Krishna Paksha Ashtami is called Ekashtaka. Ya Maghyaha Paurnamasyaha Uparishtat Vyashtaka Tasyam Ashtami Jyeshtaya Sampadhyate Ram Ekashtake Tyachakshate. So this is also called as Vyashtaka. Next day, of course, is Anvashtaka. There are 2 days. Now, the rishis, when they wanted to check whether they will be successful in undertaking a Dirgha Satra, then what they did was, Annam Vidhanyam Ekashtakayam Apupam Chatusharavam Paktva. They created a dish. Apupa is a kind of a dish, like Purodasha. It requires 4 sharavas. A sharava is like a earthen plate. An earthen plate, a small plate. 4 such plates are taken up, and this apupa is heated on them. Annam Vidhanyam, on this Ashtaka day, when the sun rises, at the time of sunrise, you go, you now set out saying, I am interested in knowing whether I will be successful, I am desirous of continuing this Dirgha Satra. I would like to know please guide me. This is the kind of prayer a person makes. Annam vidhanyam ekashtakayam apupam chatushravam paktva pratarete nakakshamupavshet. Go to a place where the haystack is stored. In the village side, haystack is stored for the cattle one side. Sometimes, of course, you want to, let us say, burn. Let us say, you want to have some of these prepared. These are not prepared in the normal fire. They are prepared in this, the dhuma based on the smoke that comes out of this, that has got some good property to ward off all the bacterial effects, etc. So this normally this is present in the villages whenever a person is an Agnihotri. So it says, prepare this apupa, go to the kaksha, then you start setting fire to that kaksha. You set out a small portion, let us say up to some 5 feet, 6 feet height, up to the height of the Yajamana itself. See that in one small portion you set fire to that. Just put one, tinder or one angara onto this and wait to see whether it spreads and it becomes jwala. Annam vidhanyam ekatag apupam chatusravam pakta pratah etena kaksham upavshet. Upavshet is set fire to that. Not through matches or etc. There you take angara from an agni, cinder, put it into this kaksha. Yadi dahati punya samam bhavati. Yadi na dahati papa samam. It says if it catches fire and fully reduces that to ashes, then your job will be done. If it does not get reduced to ashes fully, then it will not be done. There are a number of factors, including the blowing of the wind, direction of the wind, speed of it, etc., velocity, all that. Now, yadi dahati punya samam bhavati, then this is an indication that you will be successful. Yadi nadahati papa samam. Then the Shruti says, ete navai pura vijnanera dirgha satra upayanti. It says, the mantra there to invoke is for Agni, Vayu and Surya. The lords, devatas of the 3 lokas. For this loka it is Agni, for Antariksha it is Vayu, for Surya it is Surya. Agnirva upadrashta, Vayu upashrota, Adityo nakhyata, Tanya evam vidvane jate. In invoking them, if he goes through this, then he is sure. Now, if there were to be an astrological way, then the Shruti need not mention such a method. This is a very fit case to apply something to predict what is going to happen next. The Shruti said about the Vijnana, there is a but it did not link it to the Kundalis or the Nakshatras. Though the Vedas themselves have said, there is a date mentioned for that, there is a thing specified, time, etc. specified for that. So it basically says, irrespective of one's karma, it is possible that the mantras have enough power to ward off anything that can go against a person, something that can be adverse, except that we follow this Kala Vijnana plus the other Vedanga Vijnana. The Kalpa has tried to specify how we do something, etc. So the Vedic injunctions are sufficient in themselves not to have an imponderable which maybe is dependent on the individual's own fortunes or whatever, one's own adrishta. The adrishta is of course punya papa kind of thing. Whatever the previous karma can affect a person can. Of course, there is also one more argument in the Vedanga Jyotisha. There are also some people who want to take the astrology also as part of this. But then there has to be some kind of an extension that should be made. Suppose a person never gets in all his lifetime no desire to perform a particular yajna at all. What could this be due to? If someone were to ask, and those are something maybe yes, someone can try to explain, saying, okay, his karma never allowed him to do anything Shrauta kind of. But Vedas do not have a discussion on that per se. If a person has this desire, this is the way to do. And if he follows the rules systematically, then he gets the result. This is what the Vedas have mentioned. Of course, this may not be sufficient, so people might have later went on trying to supplement this with something. But at some point, what has happened is the entire Shrauta part has gone out of this. That is difficult. See, the backing of the Vedas is lost. That is, the Vedangatva is not there for the astrology per se. Even if someone were to take astrology as Jyotisha, the Vedanga part, where is the injunction? Where is the Vidhivakya saying to get this result, use this? Okay? And that is there in the case of Vijnas, which is related to Kala Vidhana and Nirdishta Kala, then checking it, etc. So there are two sets of at least inputs and outputs that we have, and there is some intersection. There is no doubt about this. The intersection part is the Jyotisha, the Jyotish themselves, the five kinds of Jyotish. But Agni is rarely used, as we find in the astrology. Similarly, lightning is rarely used. Okay, sun of course is used, moon is used, other planets are used. But here per se the planets themselves are not taken, only the devatas are taken. Nakshatra devatas are taken here. We have 27 of the nakshatra devatas. They have their effects. They have said this devata, this is the Shakti, this is the mantra, this is what he does, kind of thing. So there is some intersection, but there is also enough of independence in the other side. So how much of it can be called Vedanga is little difficult. This part, astronomy, there is no doubt about it. And it has a regular purpose.
Yeah,
So,
Acharya, I have heard many people saying, they refer to Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra from Parashara Muni and.
okay. You see, Hora Shastra is not related to yajnas. See, I am only wanting to specify Vedahi yajnarthamavi pravurtaha nirdishtakala prabhavascha yajnaha tasmadidam kala vidhana shastram yo jyotisham veda saveda yajnan. This is what is the end of this sutra. And here, of course, it does not talk about anything other than yajna. Now, Brihat Hora, Parashara Hora Shastra, etc., they don't concern themselves primarily with the yajnas. Okay, that is what basically I am wanting to say. For yajnas and for other vyavaharika purpose, there can be two different sources of information, and then the ways of calculation, basis and things like that. But among Vedangas, what is pertaining to yajnas alone is listed by Lagadha. Okay? So this Lagadha, what he wrote as Vedanga Jyotisha is the Vedanga, one of the 6 Angas of the Veda. Okay, this has the seeds, this has the basis, fundamentals of what has of course been used by Paramira and others, Parashara, etc. There are various rishis who are aware. They can also produce results. We are not saying one cannot produce results other than this. Results related to the realm of yajna. Yajna as a universally beneficial activity. See, what I am saying is, if it moves towards individual centrism, then this system needs a lot of modification. Shrutis per se do not worry about that. That's what I am specifically saying. It does not concern so much about the Yajamana at all in the whole system. It says the astronomical system takes care of ensuring the results or the benefits. Okay? Whereas there it is individuals on the graha gati, the different charas and then the different bhavas, antarbhavas, etc. When a person is born, and, things like that. So that is individual centrism and related to his own kinds of good bad. Whereas this Vedanga part is a universal thing, which is for the whole community. It could be for the whole of the mankind, or all sets of living beings. Even there is nothing that is even limiting it to humans alone, kind of. And this is quite short. This is quite short, and it does not have so much of further details beyond these 5 kind of jyotis. Okay? And these 5 jyotis are across the Vedas mentioned, and their results, their devatas, their shaktis, etc. are mentioned. So my feeling is, yes, it is not a direct derivative, but this has a lot to take from here, the astrology portion. Okay? Astrology is a Shastra which has been there for very long, for millennia. There is no doubt about it. The only point of discussion is whether it is a Vedanga, does it directly have something to do with the Veda Vidhis? This is what is the question. Other than that, we have nothing against, and we don't say it is not a science or whatever. Not a Vedanga is different from saying it is not a science at all. We are not saying Jyotisha is not a science, astrology is not a science kind of. There are rishis who have written the treatises, they have also given the system, they have also given precise kind of results, etc. So it's something like the Vedic mathematics. Okay. Mathematics is mathematics. Vedas have need for calculations, measurements, etc. Shulba Sutras deal with the calculational, measuramental angle, etc. That and this mathematics need not be the same. You do have a Ganita Shastra, which is necessary, which is useful, which is effective, all that. But we don't have to link up the two beyond what is available in the Vedanga text. Okay, this is the idea. Yeah, I think with this fairly, yes, I have tried to cover. Yeah, Nakshatra Devata, Yata, Yata, Yajna Karmani, Yadamanasya Shastra Jihi, Nama Nakshatra Jamaspantam. See, there are, based on the nakshatra in which the person is born, there is a devata for that. So the name can be related to the devata's name, etc. This is what it has said. But in all such cases, it is the devata as mentioned in the Vedas for each of the nakshatra is the central focus here. Yeah, that carries the Shakti to create various benefits for the person. Yeah. Vidyatan Masavarshana Muhurtodaya Parvanam. So this is of course the Muhurtanam, Muhurtaha, etc. In fact, once I'm thinking about the Kala Vijnana Shastra as found in the Vedas alone, I will try to bring it forward to the people. And I have no knowledge about astrology at all. And still, I can leave it to the experts of astrology also to see how many of this we use, how many we do not, how much extra is there, plus even when it is used, is there any modification or it is just taken as it is, etc. This kind of a proper analysis someone can make. But there are definitely two streams, Vedic astronomy and of course the astrology part. And the Vedanga is the astronomy angle, right? Yeah. So with this, now I'll just go through the syllabus document. I just have it in front of me here. What I'm wanting to do is, today is the last class. So we will just at least see, if something is left, at least I'll cover them. Okay. It of course began with knowledge, Vedic and contemporary context, words for concepts related to knowledge in Vedic and Sanskrit like Veda, Vidya, Jnana, Kala, etc. And the contemporary words, of course, are knowledge, skills, arts in the university, as in the university titles, etc. But these need not be exactly equivalent. Sanskrit padas have their own derivation, their own deeper meanings, because there are dhatus, dhatu meanings, then of course suffixes, their meaning. When the word is made of a base and a suffix, the meaning can be properly derived. Okay, so we prefer using Veda, Vidya, Jnana, Kala, these kind of words. Okay. Then Vedic context of knowledge and contemporary context of knowledge. Yes, Vedic context, of course, is purpose based, purpose oriented, and to the extent possible, the purpose should be universal benefit for the entire range of living beings. Shannastu dvipade, shan chatushpade. And of course, the best of the results to achieve is Shanti. All Veda Parayanas, all Vedic activities end with Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Begins with Shanti, ends with Shanti. The purpose drives all the Vedic activities, including getting knowledge. Whereas today's efforts, today's endeavor cannot assume that this is the case everywhere. It's quite difficult to find. People are also at counter purposes, cross purposes, etc. So Vedas definitely, Vedic efforts are all for everybody's uniform upliftment. That is the idea. So contemporary studies of Vedic knowledge, mapping, researching, validation, application. This is important. So I will anyway come to in the last, of course, we have a table given. With respect to the table, yes, contemporary classification, Vedic sciences model. That and this can anyway go together. So here, sources of Vedic knowledge we have covered. Oral and written sources, manuscripts, etc. Of course, Vedas, Vedangas, Darshanas, Shastras, we covered. Of course, this website is built only from this point, this kind of a requirement. So please go through this knowledge base as much as you can. And of course, feel free to be in touch with me anytime, phone or email or whatever. There's no problem at all. We have tried to put something there just to see that the discussions have some basis on which we try to understand things well. Okay? The original texts are put for this knowledge scape, the landscape itself. Okay? Then, of course, Mantra, Brahmana, Aranyaka, Upanishad, the difference has been shown with the actual text. But one needs to have some actual data in Sanskrit to be meaningfully understanding something. That is an important prerequisite. In fact, I was telling Dr. Sai, further onwards, maybe in some of these courses, one could even mention it as a prerequisite, some working knowledge of Sanskrit kind of, where we can take an example or explain things or even use Sanskrit medium, etc. We are anyway thinking of maybe a small monograph I have an idea to at least write up on all of these and then distribute to people. Or maybe we could have a textbook. That is what Dr. Sai was asking yesterday. We will just anyway think over and find one of them brought out soon. Okay. So there we, of course, the site will be referred to so that that is there for all to see, and then we have the content, actual content there. At random, one can pick up anything and then try to have a discussion to make a point or understand various aspects of it. Discussion around oral and written. Of course, written part is there for quite some time now. Maybe around 1,000 years or so. We should have the palm leaves starting written. But even before that, of course, the oral part has no beginning. Discussion around counting of mantras. Of course, okay. There are Vedas are infinite at one level because of the number of Vedas, number of shakhas, and then each shakha having Samhita, Brahmana, Arnika, Upanishad. It's also finite enough so that basic concepts, let us say, are there found in every shakha. So something that is minimal to be known is made available for everyone, every student, and of course one is also made to be humble enough to realize one cannot exhaust the entire reservoir of infinite knowledge which Vedas represent. It's important to know both the finiteness and infiniteness. Finiteness as far as applying and benefiting, whereas infiniteness is the principle behind or the authenticity, its infallibility. For that, this is necessary. Classification, of course, implications of classification of Vedas for Indic knowledge study. Yeah, there are 2-3 kinds. Vedas as containers of knowledge. Yes, this is definitely true, irrespective of somebody performing the rituals. Here, of course, he has said contrast to the view as spells for ritual. Yes, the rituals are one way of trying to actually demonstrate or realize the meaning. There's no doubt about it. Realize the effectiveness. But even without that, there could be jnana yajna, there could be tapo yajna. Vedas have always mentioned someone doing this yajna and someone knowing it in depth also will get the same result of having performed physically. Okay? So, these both views are true. To actually perform a ritual and get the result, yes, that is one of the ways of drawing a person to believe, get faith in the system. They are containers of knowledge, there is no doubt. The entire thing is created, the whole universal cosmic creation itself is based on Veda Mantra. So, from that side, they happen to be the sources of all objects from which these get created. Then, out of them, achieving whatever can be by using them in a given way. So, these are the two sides. They are not opposed to each other. Contrast to, of course, is written. Contrast is in terms of distinction. Yes, there is a distinction between this approach and that approach, but there is no contradiction. Okay? Traditional view as revelation, discovery of fundamental principles underlying later development. Yeah, this is something I don't want to risk saying all things that will be found, let us say, in the next 1,000 years are already there in the Vedas. Not exactly the way like the theory or the application or the physical manifestation, but principle wise, yes. See, one is not going to invent a new element, that kind of thing. Suppose there are 5 elements that we now have, one is not requiring or going to have a 6th element or something. It's not like the periodical table having a chemical element kind of. This is basically I am talking about a fundamental force in nature. So we have Prithvi, Tejo, Vayu, Akasha. Yes, within them, people can harness them for various kinds of results, good, bad, neutral, whatever. So it is not that all the results, details are seen. It is not necessary, but all inspiration comes from here. Yes, that part is the right part. So the revelation or discovery of fundamental principles underlying further development. Because at any time somebody takes, however far back somebody goes, Vedas, if they are eternal, then these things have always been after the Vedic mantras. So that way, yes, the discovery of fundamental principles underlying the later developments is true. Vedas being the guiding spirit, that is true at all times. So the modern view has said, the Adi Samaj is the answer Saraswati saying, it's a source of all Satya Vidyas, true science. Viewed in the model of modern sciences, he would maybe call some of them. Yeah, we have the difference between Vyavaharika and Daiva. The divine part is different. Like I mentioned in the beginning, everybody's upliftment, universal harmony, good, if that is the aim, then Vedas cover it fully. If there is something that is personal, something that is selfish, something that is destructive, then of course this is twisting the available one to suit somebody's purpose. At that point, we don't have to say, Vedas don't prescribe this. Of course, the raw material or the ingredients still remains the same. Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas are the common ingredients for anything, good, bad, or neutral thing. But Vedas always stress on being of use to self and others, and of course to as many as possible, as widespread as possible. So from that point of view, the first view is good enough. Revelation or discovery of fundamental principle through various rishis who had the ability to physically see the mantras or physically get the sounds. Then Vedas and Yajnas, this of course we covered. Yajnas has knowledge, yes, this also. Science and technology of Yajna. Yeah, this is what is the Kalpa Sutras fully about. How to create the Vedi onwards, the dimensions, the durations, the types, the way maintaining them, etc. And then of course they are dismantling, all of them. Creating, utilizing, dismantling, and sequences, durations, various number of people involved, ways of doing it. And all. Mimamsa, of course, Mimamsa and Kalpa Sutras are replete, complete with this science and technology of the Yajna description, including whether something should be recited audibly, only the lip movement is seen, or totally mentally. That is Manasa, Upamshu, Uchaihi. So even this kind of distinction, where to switch over from what to what, etc., very, very minute details are discussed. That is the yajnas, how to perform that part. Nature as yajna, of course, this I have mentioned. As the life process are processing by Agni in the Virat Purusha's body, this is what, of course, Purusha Sukta talks about. Yajnana yajnamayajanta devaha. Human yajna is imitation of natural yajna. Yes, Tani Dharmani Prathamanyasam. We have talked about. Classification of yajnas, we said Nitya, Naimittika, and Kamya. It is the periodicity decides something that is regular periodicity, and Naimittikas are those whenever the Nimitta happens. Right? The eclipses are Naimittika. If there is a solar eclipse or a lunar eclipse, then a certain thing has to be done. That need not be there always, need not be there every Purnami or Amavasya, etc. Nityas are those like Sandhyavandana, they occur day after day continuously. Kamyas are, of course, whenever you need a particular result, if you have a desire, do the thing required for that. Vedangas, because this is what we covered in some depth. Original context and so far identified contemporary knowledge aspects. The original context, of course, we have. This, the purpose is protection of Vedic pronunciation in the case of Shiksha. The contemporary knowledge, of course, today what it can be applied to is origin of contemporary phonetics and phonology, study of phonation, articulatory phonetics, origin of Varnamala as a scientific table of phonemes in all Indian languages. See, this is necessary because, okay, Vedas are in the Chando Bhasha. Chandas is the Sanskrita based, but from there we have Sanskrita, Prakrita, whatever. This may be even beyond that or before that. But it is also the source of all the spoken Indian languages today. And they have the link with that. They happen to be a subset of the Vedic set, which is Vedic Varnamala, which is the superset. So the origin of Varnamala, this can now be understood well. That is Sthana, Prayatna, Karana, etc. The Varnakrama Pata of Vedas is the most detailed description of every Vedic syllable. And that is helpful to understand any other Indian language systematically, being able to be very precise in the pronunciation, in the articulation of ideas, articulation of meanings, etc. So that is the relevance of studying Vedic Shiksha as a Vedanga to be applied today in the phonetic related, language related activities. Second is, of course, Chandas. Original context is protection of Vedic oral text and its prosody. Today one can use it for mathematics, binary number calculations, origin of zero, combinatorics, etc. Yeah, this I don't know. See, today since we know something, we list after 10 years something else can get added. The whole idea is application. There are a number of applications which are numeric, which have certain combinations, which have certain permutations, etc. The Chandas is basically giving us handles for designating, understanding, and then of course expanding onto the prastaras kind of thing. So again, it happens to be that Vedic texts are to be preserved is the main purpose of all the six Vedanga. They have, by the rigor of the training that somebody gets in those domains, can be successful in other efforts in life. That is what is getting listed in some cases. Similarly, Vyakarana, original context is Raksha, Uha, Agama, Laghu, Asandeha. These are the 5 purposes as mentioned in the Vyakarana Vartika plus Mahavashya. Mahavashya has explanation of all of these with mantras in very great detail. Rakshartham Vedanam Adhyayam Vyakaranam. First purpose is to preserve the Vedic text without any distortion, any modification. That is Raksha. That is the first meaning, first purpose. Second, of course, is Uha. See, there are certain gaps left in the Veda mantra. Let us say a person has to mention his name, his father's name. I named so and so, son of so and so, kind of. Amushya, Amushyayanaya, Tamaham Asma Amushyayanaya, Asmai Amushyayanaya, to this person, son of this person, etc. So those by itself is not a word. Asmai or Amushyayanaya, those are fillers, those are pronouns. So these pronouns, when they are getting filled up with the names of the individuals, that is called uha or substitution. So substitution also is necessary. Particularly, let us say when we do, even in Sandhya Vandana, Prata Sandhya Vandana, Madhyanika, Sayam Sandhya Vandana, the time gets added into the Sankalpa. Okay. Similarly, the Prata Vaishadeva, Sayam Vaishadeva, Panchamahayajnas, the mantras themselves include Ye Bhuta Patiranti, Diva Balimichantaha in the daytime, Naktam Balimichantaha to be said in the evening. Similarly, Agnihotra also, as in the daytime, Tatanta Satyan Parishinjamiti, Sayam Parishinjati, Satyam Tatyan Parishinjamiti, Prataha. So the time related words, name related words, work related words, there are a number of such categories given where certain Laukika words are to be interspersed, substituted into the spaces left, blanks given in the Veda mantra. That is Uha. To do the Uha, someone should know the Sanskrit grammar. Otherwise, which pada, which linga, which vibhakti, which vachana, etc. This has to be known. Shruti also mentions vibhaktayo bhavanti vacho vidhrityai. See, in the Sankalpa, Shashti vibhakti is to be used. Asana, Shashti vibhakti is to be used. Avahana, Dvitiya vibhakti is to be used. Sampradana, Chaturthi vibhakti has to be used. Calling out, Sambodhana vibhakti has to be used. So these are the kinds of variations that someone has to make to the word that are getting substituted. So Uha is a second purpose where without Vyakarana Jnana it is not possible to add the words. Similarly, Agama, when 2 words join together, then there will be Agama, Adesha, or Lopa. The Sandhi process, that should be understood well. That is, there is a Padapatha in the case of Vedas, there is also a Samhita Patha. Between the two, the link has to be understood. So that is Agama. Then Laghu. Vyakarana, through the sutras of Panini, is a very brief, precise way, but very brief way of saying a large number of information. So the Laghava is used by Panini through certain devices and tools that he designed. Some the samnyas, paribhashas, etc. He used some meta language so that the description becomes very sharp, but it is still very clear and unambiguous. For that also Vyakarana has to be learned. That is Laghava. Then Asandeha, Sha, Sha, Sa, etc. If they are different, then someone has to know they are different. So from that point of view, Rakshohagama Laghvasandeha Prayojanam. 5.3 Vyakarana. The first, the original context is that Rakshartham Vedanam Adhyayam Vyakarana Uharthamapi Agamarthancha Laghvarthamapi Asandeharthancha. This is how Mahabhashya, of course, there are a number of mantras where he is explained where this is used, how Vyakarana helps doing that, and why without the knowledge of Vyakarana this would not have been possible. Okay? So the original purpose of Vyakarana study as a Vedanga was to protect Vedic text, to add the uhas, to understand agamas, to make this quite simpler, easier, the Laghava, and then of course without any doubt which is pronounced to be from which point, where does the sound start coming from, where is the origin, where is the reflecting point, how does it hear, what is the duration, what is the detail about Udatta, Anudatta, Sarita, etc. So those are the details. So that is the original context of Vyakarana as a Vedanga. Contemporary knowledge, of course, one can use it in linguistics to a very great extent. linguistics, origin of many modern general linguistic notions such as Sandhi, internal Sandhi, external Sandhi, morphophonemics, etc. Yeah, these are of course contemporary. Today something is known, this we can treat. Tomorrow some other knowledge, new knowledge comes up. Vedas will still retain their relevance. Then they may help in different other activities. Fourth, of course, is Nirukta. The original context is protection of semantics of Vedas. Yes. Every syllable has got its own meaning, and then you can build up meaning of a word, sentence, etc. incrementally. That is the idea. Contemporary knowledge, of course, is the etymology. It is to create a new word functionally based on what it is expected to do. You create a word from that. Origin of many contemporary linguistic ideas, etymologies, theories of origin of words from noun and verb groups, multiple interpretations of the same expression, hermeneutics, etc. Yeah, the knowledge about sound meaning relationship has got a very deep significance. So one can apply it at the different levels. Every vowel, consonant, every literal has got certain default meaning. And then when words are aggregates of such individual building blocks, then one can always try to mix and match to precisely say something. So that knowledge comes from Nirukta Shastra. That is applied into a number of places today. Fifth is kalpa. Original context is the procedures, that is performing of the yajnas. That was the very purpose. Protection of yajna procedure. Contemporary knowledge could be, that is like the calculational language aspects that are there. It's not this much alone. Actually speaking, to have a very well coordinated, very huge complex activity, kalpas are the very good guide for us. See, if the number of participants is too high, number of individual sub-activities, if they are in lakhs, let us say hundreds of thousands of them, then of course their individual sequence is so tightly bound, if one goes wrong, all others can get affected, etc. So this
Sir,
in such,
sir, 1 second. Yeah. Has there been any instance where the principles given in Kalpa have been used for project management?
yeah, there are a number of people who have been trying to do this job. Actually, the word kalpa itself is used, prakalpa, akalpa, etc. People, even to say a project. How does somebody call a project in Sanskrit? Then people usually use this kalpa. It is part of it anyway. It can be vikalpa, akalpa, prakalpa, etc. Simply because this basic idea remains. Kalpana or translating to the physical model from the mind is basic process here. So it has been tried by a number of people. But very recently, it was a good PhD thesis on Mimamsa inspired representation of action. Very action itself. Mimamsa has got something to do with vidhi, utpatti vidhi, niyama vidhi, parisankhya vidhi, etc. Even action per se, as defined, let us say in the Mimamsa description of Ved Mantra, the Kalpas, has been tried. There has been, of course, a lot of interest. In Austria, the Austrian country, there is one big team which is almost going to the extent of saying Indians know nothing about Mimamsa, nothing about Kalpa. We know it. We have a new logic even for that. We patent it, etc., etc. To that extent, people have gone. Last 30 years, there has been very, very deep study on Kalpa and Mimamsa as explanatory to Vedic text understanding. And they have even come up with a new set of ontology-based logic. They call it as deontic logic. It has two fallouts. One is the ontology itself. Ontology of the entire universe can be built. The Vedic ontology is very, very exhaustive and comprehensive. This is number one. Number two, from that, use it for inferring things. Mimamsa also is a Nyaya Shastra. So, to derive out fundamental principles of conflict resolution. Suppose there is a conflict between two different kinds of things. How do you resolve them? So, this in effect helps in the decision making. And so, definitely, yes, management people. I have heard of somebody in Chennai also. There is one Kannan who says, he would he uses Vedic management, and then says, of course, project management through Vedic principles. He tries to use, I don't know how successful or whatever. Gita also has been used for management. But compared to Gita, the Kalpas are the ones which have more than 20,000 sutras, and then if someone can actually represent them with the nesting of their applicability, it is definitely helpful. And there is some work by this, Professor Ranjani Partharthi in Anna University. Anna University, Ranjani Partharthi worked on this. And the student name is Bama Srinivasan. She has got her PhD anyway. The Mimamsa inspired representation of action. They are also wanting to continue a lot more. Just a kind of beginning from our side here. But there are some more such theses available from the Austrian group. Deontic logic portion. At least 100 good dissertations are there in their site. I have gone through some of them. Recently, I conducted a workshop just to counter some of those, things that have been blown out of proportion, etc. That we try to put a kind of dampener. But yes, this is being looked at. In design also it is being done. There was one Professor Puvaya, I think, in IIT Bombay and even in IISc, one person was trying to work on the design itself, product design kind of things also people are wanting to use based on the preferences, tendencies, individualizing, personalizing something, etc. There are a number of ways people are trying to look at.
One more query, sir. Do we have any text that talks about various exercises which can be used to improve our attention and focus and concentration?
Actually, in the Veda mantras, there are certain kinds of classification.
Okay.
That is, when traditionally when people recite mantras, they have their own thumb rule based classification, which they think. See, you usually repeat something 10 times, 20 times, 40 times, 100 times, etc. But there are some which are earmarked for an infinite number. That is what they normally do is take the tamarind seed in a vessel, put it down. Then each time you repeat, put this one back, kind of. So a full part of tamarind seed have to be completed to retain something. This is simply because the repetition and the fallibility, very, very close things, but then this is not that. So in such cases, people have always said there are also certain individual Lakshana Granthas, but I have published some of them. They're too technical, but it's possible to say what can be mistaken as what. And if you pay attention to such things, you will normally not go wrong. They are called Sandeha Nirasa Patha. Sandeha Nirasa Patha. There is also something called Shrinkhala Patha. The Shrinkhala Patha is something that is there in all the Vedas today. Hardly anyone knows their purpose, but it still continues, luckily. I have tried to write up on why is it important, its efficacy kind of thing. And we are now anyway making it out for the entire Krishna Yajurveda from our website. I have a simple program which is written just to explain, but then of course, wherever there is a deviation, there is a normal method where it is possible to master it quickly. But where it is not possible, the complexity varies. And for different levels of complexity, different solutions are provided. And these are provided for a layman actually. It is not a very Shastra kind of thing. So those are practical guides that are available in the tradition, the recitational tradition. And that is hardly used today because most people refer to books or they don't need them anymore.
So the reason why I am asking is in the professional world where I work as a coach, there is a lot of unnecessary distraction.
I know.
And that distraction is only increasing.
Yes.
So my interest is definitely focus, concentration, attention are those areas which our Rishis and Munis have properly studied and used it over the course of thousands of years. So there must be some distilled knowledge that we can use in the form of principles, add our current context and create something unique practice. So that is what I'm looking for.
I will add one caveat here. The medium also matters. See, what happens is, if the medium happens to be Sanskrit, it is much easier to guide a person to even remember. The thumb rules are also remembered very well if they are also used in the, like a mnemonic in Sanskrit itself.
No, we can use it.
So,
yes.
Other language you might lose that. But the whole idea is, yes, it is possible to slowly draw a person to use the Varnamala itself. The sound, its origin is important in controlling the tendency to go astray. This is what is, in a nutshell, the principle behind is the sthana, prayatna, karana, etc. of this sound that is being produced by the person has in itself an ability to be bound and to be not disturbed. But a little knowledge about that consciously is necessary, and that is what is tapped in the case of the Sandeha Nirasa Patas. Okay? Yeah, we can discuss this separately sometime.
Yes, I will drop you an email and call you sometime tomorrow, sir.
Sure.
Do you have time?
We'll do it offline.
Yeah,
We'll do it offline. Yes.
Yeah.
Jyotisha, today we covered protection of space and time knowledge in the Veda. Contemporary knowledge, of course, is astronomy, meteorology, etc. Luckily, he has not put the astrology part into this. That is little controversial. And we don't have direct sources to back up. That is the point. Then, of course, Vedartha Darshanas. Yes. The Darshanas are not the Vedangas per se, they are under the Upangas. The Mimamsa. Mimamsa has got two parts. The Purva Mimamsa is the Karma Mimamsa, Karma Kanda, and of course Vedanta is the Uttara Mimamsa. The original context and so far identified contemporary Mimamsa, of course, is interpretation of Vedic text towards Dharma and Yajna. Because Karma is used, Karma in the sense of Yajna are that which produces Dharma. That is what is the purpose of the Purva Mimamsa. Today we can use it for methods of exegesis. Yes. How do words get named? How do the names keep changing? How does somebody decide something is a name, something is an activity, something is instruction, etc. Interpretative techniques, yes, Mimamsa is quite rich in that. A certain approach of Vedic linguistics. Yeah, Vedic mantras, swaras are also discussed. Linguistic cognition, knowledge organization, knowledge management, etc. Yeah, Mimamsa is a good source anyway. Mimamsa is too detailed, and that's what now I am finding. The Austrian team or even in the country, there is now more focus towards understanding this. There are very few experts available. That is one of the difficulties there. We hardly have enough people who know Mimamsa, who can authentically explain Mimamsa. Because one also has to know Vedas first. From the Veda mantra, applying Mimamsa Sutra, somebody can explain. So it requires two prerequisites, and so we find the experts dwindling. But it has a very, among all the Shastras available today, Mimamsa has the maximum promise to be of use. And it is directly linked to Vedas and Vedic interpretation. So there's no doubt about that. Yeah, we hope soon we should be able to have some good breakthrough in the application of Mimamsa as an ontology at least. In original context of Vedanta is of course Vedic text towards Brahman and Moksha, and that's true. Contemporary knowledge, of course, psychology is one possibility. Yes, like yoga. Yoga is something that is directly related to this, contemplating inwards. That can help. Even behaviorology, I don't know, not only psychology, behaviors can change. Purpose of life, if it is understood, philosophy can help a person to become dispassionate. Then the world become much better place to live in. And of course, other Vedic darshanas, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, etc. I didn't cover darshanas per se, because yes, we have the text anyway, we have classified the darshana. It's difficult to cover within this short period, number one. Number two, they happen to be from the Vedas to Vedangas to Upangas. These are the Upangas level. The darshanas come at the Upanga level. So, if these principles are clear, you should be able to appreciate what they see, but it is more data oriented. It's important to know what Sankhya said, what Yoga Sutra says, what Vaisheshika Sutra says. Sutras are available. They won't be anything new, but the way it is applied is important. Okay, that will take enough effort. I think, yeah, the landscape is only to identify which is discussed where. But to actually take each one of them, that's what we now think of as a monograph. Maybe 5 pages about each of these you would like to write and then make it available to people. Then, of course, that will be an introduction to what to look for where. That part we can try to produce. Yeah, so that is true of Sankhya Yoga also. Spota is the seventh Vedic Darshana. Last time also I have mentioned. We don't count it as the seventh Vedic. There are only 6 Vedic Darshanas and then no one. Vyakarnas did not originally have a philosophy. Panini never mentioned. Then, of course, Patanjali onwards, yes, while describing meaning and word relation, they have posited an effect, and that they have called it as Spota. Spota has been decried by Vedantis generally. Other Shastrajnas have not accepted it as an independent thing. Direct knowledge in non-narrative section, direct knowledge in narrative section, indirect knowledge in narrative section. epics, personalities, encyclopedic literature.
Shivaji, can you please scroll the screen?
Yeah, after this, yeah, next page. Darshanas, of course, may not be suitable for a university kind of studying. This is more for contemplation, self-study, and then actually practicing and then updating oneself. See, darshan actually implies you are able to see, you are able to experience, as opposed to you are able to know. See, the Vedangas are for knowledge level, whereas these darshanas are for anubhava level. Okay, so the kalas are for technology, etc. You can play with them with your own hands. So that distinction, in fact, there was one in my presentation that I have said there is a three-layer thing. Upasana or the Anubhava is the highest level, Jnana or Adhyana is the second level, Kala or the abilities, crafts, skills, etc. That is the third level.
Yes,
The
yes.
lowest
We heard
where
you
some-
had that.
yeah, so at that level, this will come in. Itihasas, Puranas, Upapuranas, they are books of knowledge. Again, knowledge aspects of Kavyas also. These are for morals, for teaching ethics, values to somebody. But these are derived from the Vidyasthanas. Okay. From Vidyasthana, someone applies them in a very useful form, capsulating them. Shastra Granthas, of course, I did not go for Shastras per se. There's another way of dividing Dharma Shastra, Artha Shastra, Kama Shastra, Moksha Shastra, based on the four Purusharthas. Then, of course, Artha Shastra, Kama Shastra, Natya Shastra, of course, that is part of Sangeeta itself. Natya Shastra is also part of Kama Shastra. Sangeeta Shastra can also come under that. Alankara is not part of these four generally. Ayurveda, of course, is a Upaveda. Ayurveda is related to Vedas. It's necessary to see someone is in good health, and then Ayurveda, Dhanurveda, Gandharva Veda are the music, and Sthapatya. These four are Upavedas. Vastu or Shilpa Shastra, that is the Upaveda. Chitra Sutra, Dhanurveda. Dhanurveda, Vastu, Ayurveda, yes, Sangeeta Shastra. These four happen to be Upavedas. The other four are, of course, based on Purushartha, traditional classification of Indic knowledge system. Chatushashti, Vidyasthana, this I have corrected last time also. Chatushashti Kalas model. We don't call them as Vidyasthanas. Chaturdasha Vidyasthanas only. Chatushashti Kalaha. There is a list, and of course, we also have in the site also we have this Kala listed there in Sanskrit, in English, and of course, there is Chatushashti Kalaha. Those are arts, crafts, etc. Three cleansing sciences model. This is something, of course, Professor Nagaraj Paturi seems to have in a way of making people realize. That is body cleaning, mind cleaning, speech cleaning. This, of course, is mentioned about Patanjali. He wrote texts in all the three domains. In the Ayurveda, that is for bodily cleansing. Yoga, of course, is mind cleansing. Vyakarana is speech cleansing. Mahabhashya in Vyakarana, and of course, Yoga Sutras itself, written by him. Then, of course, in the Ashtanga Yoga, he uses this in Ashtanga Hridaya in the Ayurveda also. So, is Yogena Chittasya, Padena Vacha, Malam Sharirasya Vaidyakena, Yopakarottam Pravaram Muninam, Patanjalim Pranjali Anatosmi. That is how we pay our respects to him. Then Upanishadic model, Adhyatmik or Moksha centric model, Paravidya, Aparavidya, this anyway we have listed. It is not easy to know from books what it means to be liberated. These are at the level of experience. In a contemporary classification, objective knowledge, subjective knowledge, these are all too shallow. There is not much that one achieves by trying to. For convenience, someone uses them. Yeah, oral, textual, and non-textual knowledge. Because Westerners stress more on written form of knowledge. Indian system have always been on spoken aspect of the knowledge because the feelings behind, the emotions will be intact. That is important. That's the purpose of communication. So I think with this, yeah, we will say good luck to all of you. And whatever has been left, wherever you feel need for help, you are always, you can feel at liberty to be in touch with me. Shivaji, thanks a lot. And I think with this, I close this year's session, this semester session. I will also go for making those, the write-ups, and then we'll see monographs, and over a period we can think of a text. But if text has to be written, there should be a Sanskrit content. People should be able to follow the original Sanskrit. Otherwise, in English, making it is not of much use. We should be able to quote actual text, then discuss them. Can be in English. That way,
Sir,
anyway.
I think the skeleton which you have written in the form of this the overview. I won't use the wrong word, skeleton.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah.
overview that is given in these 3 pages. That
Yes.
overview, if it can be given in the form of in the English itself by adding a few more contents wherever there is there, and
Yeah,
then
that is what.
link to the actual Sanskrit text. I think that
Yeah.
gives a very good understanding, and I'm going to propose it to Sai Mahodaya that
Yeah.
I
But
feel,
we are also planning on those lines only. We are also planning on those lines. So that
yeah,
this site also should be used more and more by people so that you will know where what is available. And then, of
correct.
course, anything, choose anything at random is okay. We don't have to fix
Yeah,
the kind of.
because I feel this particular document should be a part of the first subject or first introduction to this whole course. Whatever course we are doing in MIT Vedic Sciences, this should be
Yes.
introduced as the first lesson, I feel.
Yeah.
Not the details, but just the overview of spending 2 or 3
Yes.
hours and introducing them to Indic knowledge systems. This is what
Yes.
each one is. Then we
Sure.
can start following, because it took us some time for us to get here. But if it
Yes.
can be put in the beginning itself, I think we will
Yes.
start appreciating a lot more, because this provides a beautiful context for the whole course.
Very good. Yeah. Yeah. We learn by actually trying.
Doing.
So
Yes, yes,
yeah.
yes. Sure.
Then good night. Namaskar.
Yes, sir. Namaskar. Thank you.
Wish you all the
Sir,
best.
thank you, sir. Sir, I will get in touch with you tomorrow.
Sure, sure. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. I'll leave the meeting.
Wonderful.
Namaste, sir. Thank you.
Namaste.